The dining room was glowing with candles, laughter, and clinking silverware, until Mom's voice sliced through the air like a knife. She slammed her fork down and snarled, "Your success means nothing. Anna's the only daughter who matters." Everyone stared, my chest burning with shame and rage. But what my mother didn't know was that this dinner would be the last time she ever dismissed me. Because by the end of the night, the truth I carried would leave her, and Anna, completely speechless. The dining room shimmered like something out of a magazine. A crystal chandelier spilled golden light across polished mahogany, candles flickered in silver holders, and the scent of roasted duck, garlic butter rolls, and aged wine filled the air. To anyone looking in from the outside, this was the picture of a perfect family gathering. But perfection is just a mask. And tonight, that mask was about to shatter. I sat at the far end of the long table, my place setting gleaming but strangely cold. Beside me sat Anna, my sister, the golden child. She was glowing as always, dressed in a silk emerald dress, her laughter rising above everyone else's like she owned the room. She had always owned the room, or rather, Mom made sure she did. Mom sat at the head of the table, pearls around her neck, posture sharp, eyes quick to measure and judge. Across from her, Dad swirled his wine and said little. He rarely interfered. In this house, Mom's word was law. I picked at my plate, trying to ignore the subtle digs that floated across the table. "How's work going, Anna?" Mom asked with a proud smile. Anna smirked. "Busy but fulfilling. You know how it is when people value you." The word value hit me like a dart. I forced a smile, swallowing the knot in my throat. Then Dad turned to me. "And you? How's your business doing these days?" Before I could answer, Mom cut in, her fork clattering loudly against her plate. "Business?" she scoffed. "Let's not pretend. Your so-called success means nothing compared to what Anna has achieved. She's the daughter this family can truly be proud of." The table went silent. Her words sliced through me, sharp and merciless. My chest tightened as heat rose to my face. I glanced around, Anna smirking with satisfaction, Dad staring into his glass, my younger cousins shifting awkwardly in their seats. No one spoke up for me. Not a single voice. Mom leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You've always been chasing shadows. You may think you're accomplished, but compared to Anna, you're invisible." Invisible. That word echoed in my head, louder than the clinking glasses and muffled laughter. I clenched my hands under the table, nails digging into my palms. They didn't know. They had no idea what I had built, what I had sacrificed, what I had achieved on my own without a single ounce of support from this family. And in that moment, I realized something. Tonight would not just be another dinner where I swallowed their cruelty. Tonight, something inside me shifted. If they wanted invisible, I would show them undeniable. What my mother didn't know was that her words lit a fuse, and by the time the night ended, that fuse would explode in a way no one at this table would ever forget. As the silence after Mom's words hung in the air, memories crashed into me like waves I'd tried to hold back for years. This dinner wasn't the first time I'd been shoved into Anna's shadow. It was simply the loudest. From childhood, the script had always been the same. When Anna painted a sloppy watercolor in elementary school, Mom had it framed and hung in the hallway like it was museum-worthy. When I won first place at the regional science fair, my ribbon was shoved into a drawer, forgotten beneath old bills. Birthdays weren't equal either. Anna's 16th had been a glittering spectacle. A rented ballroom, a designer dress, and a car waiting with a giant bow in the driveway. My 16th? A store-bought cake with "Happy Birthday" spelled wrong in icing. I used to believe it was just my imagination, that maybe I was being dramatic. But by college, the truth became undeniable. Anna could stumble into opportunities while I had to claw for every inch. She landed internships through Mom's connections, while I worked double shifts at diners, scrubbing floors until my fingers ached, just to pay tuition. Even when I finally started my business, built from nothing, from long nights coding on a second-hand laptop, surviving on instant noodles, Mom brushed it off as a hobby. "You should ask Anna for advice," she'd sneered once. "She knows how the real world works." Anna. Always Anna. It wasn't that she was untalented. She was smart, yes, but she was spoiled. The world had been laid at her feet while I had to carve my own with bloody hands. And yet, tonight, after all I had built, after the sleepless nights, the endless sacrifices, And the quiet victories I hadn't even bothered to flaunt, they still looked at me as less than. As invisible. I glanced at Anna now, sipping her wine delicately, pretending not to notice my mother's venom. But I saw it. The tiny smirk at the corner of her lips, the satisfaction of being the chosen one yet again. The shame pressed heavy in my chest, but beneath it, something else stirred. Fire. For years, I had let their favoritism silence me. I had buried my triumphs, kept my successes hidden, thinking one day they'd finally see me for who I was. But tonight had shown me the truth. They never would. Unless I forced them to. I folded my napkin slowly, placing it beside my plate. Mom thought she had won with those words, that she had cut me down. But all she had done was hand me the perfect stage. Because the night was far from over. And when I was done, Anna wouldn't be the only daughter who mattered, because the world would know my name. The clinking of silverware resumed around the table, but my mind was already far away, back in the nights that had shaped me, in the silence where no one saw me fighting. I remembered the one-bedroom apartment where I started. The walls were thin, the ceiling leaked when it rained, and the heater rattled like it was on its last breath. My desk was nothing more than an overturned crate. My laptop was old, second-hand, the letters faded from the keys. But it was all I had, and I poured myself into it. While Anna was out at parties, flaunting her designer heels on social media, I was hunched over code until 3 a.m. While she flew to Europe for networking trips funded by Mom and Dad, I was working double shifts at a diner, my apron stained with grease, just so I could keep the lights on. Every cent I saved went into my dream. I lived on noodles and coffee, skipped holidays, and watched from afar as my family toasted champagne without me. Did they ever invite me? Rarely. And when they did, I always left feeling smaller, like my presence was an inconvenience. There were nights I wanted to quit. Nights with a screen blurred from exhaustion, where rejection emails piled in my inbox, and I thought maybe Mom was right. Maybe my success really would mean nothing. But then I'd remember the little girl I once was, clutching a forgotten science ribbon in the dark of my room, promising herself that one day she'd be more than invisible. That promise carried me through. And slowly, painfully, it started to work. My app gained its first 100 users. Then 1,000. Then investors came calling. Deals were signed. Offices rented. My name began to circulate in circles my family never even knew existed. I became something none of them could comprehend. Self-made. But I never bragged. I never came home waving checks or headlines. Partly because I wanted to see if they'd notice on their own. Mostly because I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of claiming a piece of it. So I stayed silent, even as my company crossed 7 figures. Even as my name appeared on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list. Even as magazines requested interviews. And still, at this dinner table, I was nothing more than the other daughter. Invisible. But invisibility has its perks. They never saw me coming. And tonight, I decided they finally would. I looked up, catching Anna's gaze across the table. She was laughing at something Mom whispered, her golden earrings glittering in the light. She had no idea her crown was about to slip. The conversation shifted, as it always did, back to Anna. So tell us more about your new project, Mom urged, her eyes glowing with pride. Anna smiled sweetly, like she'd been waiting for the spotlight. Well, the firm just promoted me to lead consultant. They said my presentation last quarter impressed the entire board. Applause rippled around the table. Dad raised his glass. That's my girl. My stomach twisted. The same father who hadn't called when I nearly lost everything in my first year of business now beamed at Anna like she'd reinvented the world. And, Anna continued, I've been invited to a conference in Paris. Expenses covered, of course. They want me to represent the company. Mom clutched her hands together. Paris. Oh, Anna, you've made us so proud. Her words stung, not because Anna didn't deserve success. She worked, yes, but because they acted like she'd climbed Everest while ignoring the mountains I'd scaled with no ropes, no oxygen, and no applause. Anna tilted her head toward me then, her smile laced with sugar and poison. What about you, sis? Still tinkering with that little startup of yours? The table chuckled softly, the laughter like a dagger. I forced a calm smile. Yes. Still tinkering. If only they knew. But I didn't bite back. Not yet. Let her have her throne. Let them all bow to their golden child. The higher she sat, the harder the fall would be. Because tonight, I wasn't here to fight for scraps of approval. I was here to flip the table. And the moment was coming. Anna's jab lingered in the air, drawing soft chuckles from the cousins and a smug smile from Mom. I clenched my fork so tightly it nearly bent. 4 years, I had endured their little humiliations. Dismissive comments, comparisons, invisible victories. But tonight, something inside me snapped. I set my fork down slowly, the metallic clink echoing louder than it should have. The table quieted, sensing a shift. "You're right, Anna," I said, my voice steady. "It is a little startup. Small, unimportant. Hardly worth mentioning at all." Anna smirked, satisfied, ready to move on. But I leaned forward, my tone sharpening like a blade. "But tell me, how many little startups get acquisition offers worth 8 figures? The air froze. Anna blinked. Mom frowned, as though I'd spoken a foreign language. 8 figures. I nodded. $10 million. The first offer came 6 months ago. I turned it down. Gasps whispered around the table. Dad set his glass down too hard, red wine spilling onto the cloth. Anna's smirk collapsed. I continued, each word deliberate. "I kept quiet because I didn't need your approval. I didn't need applause. But I'm tired of pretending my success doesn't exist just because it doesn't fit your narrative." Mom's face hardened, her control slipping. You should have told us." "Why?" I asked coldly. "So you could ignore it the way you ignored everything else?" "No. Tonight, you hear it loud and clear. Your invisible daughter built something you can't dismiss." For the first time in my life, the table looked at me. And Anna's throne began to wobble. For a moment, no one breathed. The only sound was the steady tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. Anna laughed suddenly, brittle and sharp. "You're making this up. If you were worth 10 million, don't you think we'd know? Don't you think someone would have heard?" I leaned back in my chair, calm now. "Funny you mention that. Because plenty of people have heard. Just not you." I pulled my phone from my pocket, unlocked it, and slid it across the table. The screen glowed with a bookmarked article. Forbes, the visionary behind one of the fastest-growing startups of the year. My name in bold letters. Gasps filled the room. A cousin reached over, eyes wide, scrolling through the article where photos of me stood beside investors and entrepreneurs Mom had worshipped in her glossy magazines. Mom's face drained of color. This can't be real." "Oh, it's real," I said, my voice steady. "My company just opened its second office last month. We've partnered with firms you idolize, Mom. The same ones who wouldn't take your calls but invited me to their boardrooms." Anna's fork slipped from her hand, clattering against the plate. Her emerald dress, her perfect posture, her golden aura. Suddenly it all looked fragile, like a costume cracking at the seams. "You've been so busy crowning Anna the only daughter who matters," I continued, "that you didn't notice the one you called invisible was quietly building an empire." The words struck like hammers. Dad's eyes darted from the phone to me. His wine forgotten. Cousins whispered. For once, Anna had no clever line, no sweet smile. I leaned forward, my voice low but cutting. "You told me my success meant nothing. But tell me, does 10 million still mean nothing? Does Forbes still mean nothing? Or is it only nothing because I'm the one who achieved it, not your precious Anna?" Mom's lips trembled, but no sound came out. The throne she had built for Anna wobbled, the crown slipping. And for the first time, the power at this table was mine. The silence was deafening. The chandelier's glow flickered across stunned faces, their perfect holiday dinner now a battlefield of shattered illusions. Anna's lips trembled as she tried to recover. "So what? Money doesn't make you better than me. At least I have Mom's respect. At least I respect." I cut in, my voice sharp. "Anna, you didn't earn anything. Mom handed you everything. Internships, trips, a safety net you never once had to build. Meanwhile, I scraped by on nothing, built my life from scratch, and never once asked her for a dime. Respect isn't handed out with designer dresses. It's earned. And you haven't earned a thing." Anna's face flushed crimson. Her fork rattled against the plate. Mom finally spoke, her voice cold and brittle. You're twisting this. Family isn't about flaunting money or fame. It's about loyalty. And Anna has always been loyal. I laughed bitterly, the sound startling even me. Loyal? She mocks me every chance she gets. You encourage it. And when I achieve something, you both tear it down before you even bother to ask what it is. That's not loyalty, that's cruelty. I reached for my phone again, tapping the screen. A video played across the table. My company's launch event, applause echoing through the speakers, my speech about resilience, about building from nothing. Journalists snapping photos. Investors shaking my hand. Their eyes widened. Proof. Irrefutable. While you were busy crowning Anna the star, I said, the world already recognized me. You just refused to see it. Dad finally cleared his throat, voice rough. I had no idea. Of course you didn't, I said quietly. You never looked. Anna slammed her fist on the table. This doesn't change anything. I'm still the daughter who matters. And that was it, the breaking point. I stood, steady, calm, stronger than I'd ever felt. No, Anna, I said, my voice ringing through the room. You're the daughter who mattered to Mom. Not to success. Not to the world. And not to me. I turned to Mom, who sat pale and trembling, her pearls glinting under the light. You snarled that my success meant nothing. But look around, Mom. Your golden daughter has nothing to stand on but your approval. And I don't need yours, or anyone else's. Grand silence. A glass toppled somewhere down the table, the sound sharp as breaking ice. I picked up my coat, draping it over my shoulders. This will be the last dinner where I sit quietly while you diminish me. From now on, I won't be invisible. You don't get to decide who matters. I paused at the door, turning back one last time. The world already decided. And it chose me. Anna's face crumbled. Mom's eyes glistened with something she'd never shown me before. Fear. I walked out, the air outside crisp and cold, but it felt freer than anything inside that house. For the first time, I wasn't chasing their approval. I wasn't fighting to matter. I was the daughter who mattered. And nothing they said could ever take that away again.